how we monitor our boat when we're away. We lost contact with the boat, what, yesterday? That was a long explanation. Here's the actual experiment. I'm Herb, and this is Heather. We're post-career empty nesters who found the next phase of our lives lacking. Inspired by other YouTubers, we bought a small fixer-upper sailboat and spent 2 years building her into our traveling home. Now we're about to find out if it was all worthwhile. Subscribe and come along on our next adventure as we set sails to rediscover what's really necessary to live a meaningful life.
Wind into myself, away from things I let go, floating on the waves. We go bottoms up, we go all the way when you're feeling down.
Hey, before I get started this week, I just wanted to pass along an important message or a thought, because it's come up lately. And, well, as I grow older, I kind of find myself thinking about relationships and friendships more, you know? I mean, some have been lost, some of those are even missed, some of those are, of course, brand new as we embark on these adventures, and some, man, they've just lasted a lifetime. I say this because I don't want to give you the impression that we are just absent of valuable friendships. We don't live this lifestyle because we're unencumbered. In fact, you know, we have parents and we have grandparents and we have brothers, no sisters. We have children, and of course we have grandchildren. Despite the fact that we live an alternative lifestyle, there are plenty of folks that are very valued to us and that we are grateful for. But more importantly, if you're living your life or holding your dreams for a time that you're unencumbered or free of relationships or other responsibilities, well, the simple truth is you're probably holding yourself back. No, we're not fictional people. We're real. That's the joy of YouTube, and I think it's important to note that while we're trying to design this life in our boat, which can take us anywhere in the world, we want to be able to jump off and explore and take advantage of the fact that we really can get out there. Doing so means that we're going to have to come up with a system to be able to monitor our boat, and that's really the point of this week's episode. So stick around and let me show you what I'm up to. This may not be like the fairest test, but we're still in the middle of a shakedown and we need to leave the boat for a couple of days. So the test would be, here will be the experiment. We'll leave what I'm going to call a lifeline load running. So a couple of fans to circulate air inside the cabin and the refrigerator, because that would probably, you know, at least simulate what it would be like if we were living on the boat, right, and to daily needs, without running anything else, not charging anything, not anything else, just kind of basic everyday stuff. So with that and just the solar panels, the question would be, do we keep up with just standard lifeline electrical loads? I think that answer is probably yes, but the thing is, we want to be able to leave the boat with a little bit of confidence. So we're going to try something out, and that is your everyday off-the-shelf Ring doorbell. This thing was fairly cheap. It's like $100. I mean, cheap for peace of mind, I guess, in the trade. I don't know, I own a boat. Anything you buy for $100 is cheap. But what I'm going to do is mount this here in the companionway. So I've been kind of testing this to give me a good vision. It is kind of interesting because we'll be able to get a sight of what's behind us as well in this. But I mean, in theory, we would see if anybody came in the companionway or anybody tried to access the boat. Here's the thing though, that means we're going to have to leave the inverter running, because I need an AC outlet to power the Starlink so that we have internet access for the Ring to be able to work. It's a Wi-Fi system. So anyway, that was a long explanation. Here's the actual experiment. We're going to leave some life loads running. We're going to leave the inverter running. We're going to leave, the only thing plugged in will be Starlink and internet. And we're going to try to monitor the boat while we're away using just an everyday Ring doorbell camera from Home Depot, and we'll just see what happens. after dark. We lost contact with the boat, what, yesterday? Day before? No, it's been at least a full day. We haven't had contact, so a little bit worried. At the same time, kind of had a system that was a little, you know, piecemeal together. So I think if I trusted it more, I'd probably be worried more. There's too many things that just could have gone wrong. So anyway, we still need to get our bags, get an Uber to our car, which we left at the hotel. Then we got about a 2.5 hour drive down to Marathon. Then load the dinghy, get back out to the boat, see if we can figure out what went wrong. Okay, I'm kind of piecing this together this morning, but here's what I believe happened. We left on a larger load than the solar panels could keep up with. So it took about, what, 3 days, I guess, three-ish, 3 plus a little bit. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly, but the batteries drew down far enough that they did actually what they're designed to do, and that is we run on Battleborn lithium-ion batteries. Each battery has a battery management system on it, and when it reaches a certain voltage threshold, which I think on mine is, it's got to be 11.5, maybe somewhere around there. I'll have to look that up, but anyway, it hits a low threshold, roughly 10%ish. I'm thinking in terms of volts. 11 something volts is my mentally, I guess, where I have that. But in any case, it will shut the batteries off in order to protect them, because well, frankly, lithium ion phosphate batteries are pretty expensive, and you don't want to do any type of damage to them. So it's a safety feature in there as well. So they did exactly what they were designed to do, and that is they shut off. So once the batteries go into safety mode, according to Battleborn, all you do is like trickle charge them, where it's kind of a jump start, a slow jump start, to bring them back awake again. And they want you to do that within 5 days. Of course, we were well within 5 days. We were well within 2 days. And so it wasn't really that challenging in order to wake them up. It took a little while to get them charged, because we're at 100% now, just to show you that it absolutely bounces back. But it takes a little while to do that from such a deep discharge. So in any case, we got to come up with a little bit of better system. So I think there are 2 issues at play here. Number one, we ran too many loads. That's okay. That was part of the test, right? That was kind of what we were trying to determine. And there certainly will be, it was kind of a benchmark. There's certainly a better solution from here. Number 2 is piecemeal system with Ring and Starlink. You know, we're not on Wi-Fi. That's not what Ring is designed to do. Well, first off, we're on a boat, right? It's not what that system is. Just, it didn't anticipate these kind of circumstances, but it's good. It's still a good test. Had we been on Wi-Fi, it would have been something, you know, different than that, because that's a 12-volt system on our boat, just running a Wi-Fi extender. In fact, that might be a good test to follow up with. But there are really 2 issues here. Number 1 is we're not creating our battery bank is large enough, but we're not creating a large enough charge, or a rapid enough charge. I have to give us a little more thought to that. We seem to be running out of power every 4 days or so, which means we'd have to run the generator. So I'll come back to that one, because the most important thing right now is how do we monitor the boat. So anyway, we're going to go with a little different system now. We're going to try out this barnacle system. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's no vowels. BRNKL barnacle. This is a boat and RV remote security and monitoring system. It's designed to use, it's app-based, designed to use on your phone. What makes this one a little bit different is it does not require an alternating current load. This is just going to be a DC system. In fact, it has an internal SIM card that allows it to communicate with us wherever we are in the world, or so it's advertised. I guess we'll get into it and try it out. In fact, let's get this thing opened up. Here's the barnacle as completely unpacked now. You've got the main unit here. This is an external GPS. There is an external camera. And it looks like we've got a mounting bracket with screws and a little screwdriver, the wiring reference, and a sticker. So that's everything inside my pack. Okay, so according to the installation manual, the first thing we have to do is activate our barnacle, which is going to require downloading the app. So we got that downloading here. I think we end up having to put in a serial number, which is shown there. So let's try to get this thing set up first and at least get the account going, and then we're gonna have to figure out where it goes. That was actually pretty simple. I mean, nothing's really turned on here, but it was just a matter of subscribing and giving my credit card. Took a couple of steps just to set up an account, but you know, I mean, nothing like dramatically different than anything else you'd probably deal with. So this next step, positioning it, I got to figure out a place that makes some sense. So here's what I'm looking at is I want the camera to be able to see something, right? I guess it would be if anybody walked on. I don't know exactly. Let me tell you what I'm kind of thinking is I like this general area, which is kind of the, sorry for the mess, but the nav station. I've got kind of a ledge back here, or an area I might be able to put it in. I don't know if that's showing too well. Behind the VHF. And it turns out I've got an old hole up here I might be able to use for the camera. So I don't exactly know, but I think I'm going to run with that at least to start with. So it looks like the only requirement is it needs like 5 centimeters of clearance, top and bottom, depending on what you're kind of plugging in or how to mount it. I think mine's going to end up being mounted sideways. And then the camera's got to be within like 2 meters. This manual, by the way, I'm kind of showing this because man, it's very clean and kind of easy to understand. But in any case, sorry, we're going to start with connecting the GPS antenna, which is here. And we got to then worry about its positioning. I started by taking the DC panel off, and I don't know if my light's going to show it. There's a raceway in there, but it's a pretty narrow raceway. So anyway, I'm tempted to run with that a little. It's a little discreet. If I screw this up, I don't think anyone will see it. So I'm going to run with that for a moment. This is like always the worst part of the job. Then back down in the hole, see if we can find it. All right, this side is my least favorite. I've got this fish going through, this fiberglass fish, but perhaps you can see there's like a raceway right through there. It's easier to see on this side. It's just a piece of PVC. You know, anyway, listen, comes out the other side. That's all that's important. Whew! Okay, so in theory now, all we have to do is pull this through. And then, just like that, they come through. Okay, well, I'm kind of running out of daylight, so I'll probably have to pick this up tomorrow, but I'll show you where I'm finishing up the day. End of the red terminals, I've spliced in what ultimately will be a 3-amp fuse holder. Did on the same on each one. The black's just going to our negative bus bar, so I'll jump it at the other end. That'll make more sense in a moment. But anyway, I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. I'm going to close up and call it a night. So now we're back for day 2. Down in the other lazarette, just going to make these connections and then tighten some wires up so we can see what kind of length we have. I'm unscrewing something with my hand, and then I will give you an overview. So we've run the negative right there to the bus bar, and we put the positive on a battery terminal. We've got quite a bit on this terminal actually now, but they're all small feeds, so hopefully that'll be okay. We're going to go and test it and see if we get a reading. Alright, now that it's hooked up with the fuse, you can probably see the voltmeter rolling there. What we're showing here at the end is which one is the house battery, because that's the only one I've hooked up. When I touch the others, of course, I continue to get 0. Thought I'd just show you a close-up on the way these wires are attached. They just are a pen. You use the little screwdriver to undo a screw on the top, and it then clamps down, of course, on these wires. We're using, Barnacle recommends you use 18 to 22 gauge. Of course, this is a boat, so it's marine grade or 10 wire. I happen to have some 22 lying around, so that's what I've been using. All right, so after hooking all of those things up, it took, as it turns out, about 30 minutes, I would say. Maybe it was a little short of that, but in the neighborhood of a half hour for the Barnacle to come online. And keep in mind, this is a SIM card-based deal, so, you know, I get it. It takes a little bit of time, and that's one of the features I'm after, so I think that's okay. But according to customer service, which was awesome, by the way, it was very easy to deal with them. I actually just got online and chatted to ask a couple of questions, and they said, yeah, listen, for the first time that that it's logging on, or the first time that it's registered, it takes about 30 minutes. So anyway, got that done, and I'm a little anxious to move on to some other parts, but before we do, I really need to get this GPS mounted better. So currently it's just hanging out the door. I know I'm gonna want it kind of in this column. So right above this is actually where I have it sitting. You know, I'm a little hesitant here. It could be nice to mount it somewhere, you know, up on the Dodger, but that's probably not good because it needs to come down. And my hesitation with mounting it here, I mean, this isn't bad. This is a non-skid surface, so it may have some difficulty actually attaching. I'm not exactly certain, but I kind of like this spot. It's not entirely unattractive, so I think what I'm going to do is make a mark here and try to drill through to the cabinet right below it. So I think maybe kind of lining this up. Turned kind of funny. I'm not exactly certain here. Okay, so the thing is, I probably need to do this before I lose my confidence. So here we go. And I pulled it through now. You can kind of get an idea maybe what that will look like. I don't have a good way to maybe go for the corner. I don't like the front. I could go for the corner like that maybe. It's not a bad idea. I could also come inside or even a little forward. That was really the plan. I think that's what looks best, so we'll have to caulk that hole up. I don't know, that's not so bad either. I guess you can't really make too bad a mistake here, but I don't know, something looks kind of good right there in that center position for me, so that's what I'm gonna go for. I just made like a bend in the wire here, tied that string onto it, and we'll try to pull it through now. That's easier than trying to tie an end, you know, especially a split end like this. So yeah, so that was much easier to pull those two through that way. So we'll take up some slack here and then we can reassemble that. All right, so that will be its position. Then we're gonna take some just some 3M 4000, just the adhesive sealant, and I'm gonna try to get a coat kind of throughout this hole as best I can. All right, here's the finished product. Still a little bit wet, but I think it looks pretty good. Probably right there in the center. I totally thought I was filming. It was brilliant. Not really, but then the camera started beeping at me, so evidently you were out of battery. I apologize for that. Got you charged up just a little bit, so I'm gonna try to talk fast, but I'll tell you what I just did to kind of finish this thing off. As opposed to running a cable all the way to the bilge, I ran it to the switch here on the bilge. So it's actually, when the circuit is complete on the auto side, which is just a clip that's there, I ran a wire direct from here back out through our customary hole and to the bilge pin right here on the barnacle. So the app is currently verifying right there that the bilge is off. I'm actually going to watch that for another 15 minutes or so because it takes a while for this thing to regroup. The good thing is we definitely have our starter and house reporting correctly now. This is actually a pretty robust bilge monitor that Barnacle offers. For example, we've got a long period alert, so that's like number of times the bilge comes on within what I have said is a 24-hour period. We also have a short period alert, so I've set it up for, you know, if it happens 3 times within 30 minutes, if it comes on, I want to be alerted. And then I've got a bilge time limit, so, you know, I don't want the little impulses when it's just running its drill, but anything longer than 10 seconds, I've changed the name so it will tell me that it's pumping, otherwise that it's okay. So that's pretty elaborate, at least for me knowing if the bilge is running while I'm off the boat. You know, and just so I'm showing it, if I were to wire this to one of the digital inputs, it appears I could set a different output on alert. So I could have it key on a, well, frankly, I could have it key on a heater. I could, if something was too cold, I could turn on a secondary bilge pump. I could take a photo on this alert. I could have a siren go off. It looks like there's quite a bit of options. I've got 4 digital inputs that I could play with. So, okay, so I went ahead and mounted this just with some screws on either side. You'll see the hole that I've also drilled there for the camera feed to be able to come through. Just put some zip ties on the lines. Put a little zip tie here just to kind of clean things up a little bit. And so what's left is, what's left, of course, is we still have to mount the camera. I've got this hole to deal with, and then we need to reassemble everything. But that's the basic install thus far. Let me see if I can kind of get creative from here. We got a lot of other inputs, so I don't know. I might play with the barnacle a little bit. Let's just see where it goes. But in the meantime, I want to get to work on mounting the camera. That's going to start with taking a scrap of paper and creating a pattern against the wall. I'm going to transfer that pattern to a scrap piece of starboard, cut it out, and hopefully I can clean it up a little bit. It's a little old, but next I'll drill a couple holes to pass the wire and the screws and mount it to the wall along with the camera. I think it looks pretty good. We're walking through the Crane Point Hammock. And we understand the word hammock means like a mangrove underbrush or a mangrove forest, a thicket, I guess you will say. These trails are like really well marked and clear. This is a pretty nice little walk. It's about 1.5 miles, we think, kind of out to the point. But just exploring a little here in Marathon. Just what you don't want to walk into. Crane Point Hammock is a wonderful example of the connection that exists between the Florida Keys and the Bahamas, foreign islands that lie just 120 miles to the east. Similar to the United States, English families colonized the Bahamas since the 1600s, so when the American Revolutionary War ended in 1783, many colonists who were loyal to the British Crown left America and moved to the Bahamas, taking their slaves with them. When Britain abolished slavery in 1834, some of the newly freed returned to the Keys in search of opportunity, cutting timber, harvesting hardwoods, hunting turtles, or even salvaging the contents of ships that had wrecked on the nearby reefs. Included among them was George Adderley, born in the Bahamas in 1870, arriving in the Keys in 1890 and becoming a naturalized citizen the following year. It's believed that George worked on a pineapple plantation in the Upper Keys to save up the down payment that he made on this 32 acres of land in 1903. Earning a living here by making charcoal and harvesting sponges in the nearby shallows, which he then sold in the market in Key West. George even made a deal with the famous Henry Flagler, trading right-of-way access on his property in exchange for a lifetime train pass and a railway stop on his property, which later became the Marathon train station. He built this house from tabby, a mixture of lime and water with shells, gravel, or stone. Rainwater was captured in barrels, and a small shallow well provided brackish water for livestock and the irrigation of fruit trees and a kitchen garden. A cookhouse was built nearby to keep smoke and heat away from the main house, and the property served as a safe haven for other Bahamian immigrants. Somewhere near 30 people ended up calling the village home. In 1949, the Adderleys sold the property to Francis and Mary Crane, a Massachusetts couple who built their second home here, and the house was very unique. It was set in nature with walls of windows, living quarters on the second floor, and ground level rooms for servants, a lab, and a dog kennel.
It was the first modern house in the area, and construction began in 1954. In 2022, the Crane House was accepted on the National Register of Historic Places. The Cranes were ardent conservationists who worked to maintain and enhance the natural environment, preventing any commercial, hotel, and resort development that was exploding in the Keys at the time of their ownership. And you know, that tradition continues to this day. Las Hermanas Milagros. Wow. Creepy. Like the ghost of Christmas past. Okay, it's not so creepy, it's a bird hospital. Oh, wow. Entire boat is made out of styrofoam. Makes me feel really good about my engineering. All right. Give this a try. This should be. It feels like little like little air pillows or something. Good for me. This is a win-win. So while I'm getting my feet cleaned, I thought this would be a good time to maybe check in with Garuda. You know, we brought the dinghy ashore. We ended up going to lunch. We have hiked through Crane Point Hammock, toured the bird hospital and a couple of the properties here. And so this seems like a good time to see what's going on with Garuda. So pulling up the app, you can see where we are. It's showing us here on the mooring field, and also a little bit of our history on the swing. We also can check and see on both battery banks, 75 degrees. Looks like we've had a little wave action, and the bilge currently isn't running. So this is what's great. On top of that, if we wanted to, we can go and pull up photos from the camera from inside. So I can look there, they all are loading. I can look inside the boat, or we can hit a button and take a photo currently. So there you go, looking into the boat, and guess what? Nobody's home. It's a pretty good peace of mind from being ashore. We're off-roading it through the bush. Are you tracking animals? Yep, the elusive mangrove bear. Florida key bears. This would not have been a good flip-flop spot. It's a little squishy. Here you go, it's an intersection. Do you want to do the raccoon run?
Yeah.
All right. This was a really great way to spend the day. If you guys are anywhere around Marathon, make sure you check out Crane Point Hammock. And you know, for us and the new system, got a little peace of mind there. No alarms went off. We know we're not dragging on the mooring. We know the bilge isn't running. We can keep up with, you know, our battery bank and other things, and always click a picture if we wanted to. So that's kind of nice as well. Anyway, I think we're gonna call it a day. We'll keep you posted on how the Barnacle goes. Hope you've enjoyed watching the installation. Oh, and listen, please give us a like or subscribe to the channel. We could really use the help, and we really appreciate it. So in the meantime, I think we're gonna head back for the boat, maybe have a sundowner or two, and we'll see you next week.
Barnacle with the save. But now we have new projects. That's kind of what we're looking into this morning.
Hurting in my soul, shaking through my car, left me in the cold. Chained to what I know, drifter on the road, take it where I go. But I won't let the stormy seas throw me in open water. Let me have my peace and leave me till tomorrow. Wind into myself, away from things I let go, floating on the way. when you're feeling down.